It was a late October evening in the heart of New Orleans, a city teeming with history and mysticism. The humid air was thick with the scent of magnolias, and the distant sounds of jazz music wafted through the French Quarter. The streets were alive with tourists and locals alike, each person lost in the allure of the city's unique blend of beauty and darkness. Maria, a seasoned paranormal investigator, had just arrived in New Orleans to explore the abandoned Lafitte Asylum, a place rumored to be haunted by demonic forces. The asylum, which had been closed for decades, stood on the outskirts of the city, its once grand facade now crumbling and overgrown with ivy. The building's eerie presence was a stark contrast to the vibrant city that surrounded it. Maria had always been fascinated by the supernatural, her curiosity driving her to seek out places steeped in mystery and legend. Her investigations had taken her to haunted houses, deserted villages, and ancient burial grounds, but nothing had prepared her for the dark energy that seemed to emanate from the Lafitte Asylum. Accompanied by her team, Sam, a tech expert with a knack for debunking myths, Elena, a psychic sensitive to the spiritual realm, and Tom, a skeptic who provided a necessary balance, Maria approached the asylum with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. They were armed with an array of equipment: infrared cameras, EMF detectors, audio recorders, and more, ready to document any paranormal activity they might encounter. As they stepped inside the asylum, the air grew colder, and an unsettling silence fell over them. The building's interior was a maze of dark corridors and decaying rooms, each filled with the remnants of its tragic past. The walls were covered in graffiti, and broken furniture littered the floors. The atmosphere was heavy with the weight of forgotten memories and lost souls. They set up their base in what had once been the main office, a large room with tall, broken windows that let in slivers of moonlight. Sam busied himself with the equipment, setting up cameras and motion sensors throughout the building. Elena stood in the center of the room, her eyes closed, as she tried to connect with the spirits that still lingered in the asylum. Tom, ever the skeptic, rolled his eyes but followed Maria's lead, knowing that his role was to provide a rational perspective. As the night wore on, the team began their investigation. They explored the asylum's many rooms, documenting strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena. In one room, the temperature dropped suddenly, and they captured a ghostly figure on camera. In another, they heard the faint sound of children's laughter, despite the building being long abandoned. But it was in the basement that they encountered the true horror of the Lafitte Asylum. The basement was a labyrinth of narrow hallways and small, dank rooms. As they descended the creaking stairs, Maria felt a growing sense of dread. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay, and the darkness seemed to press in on them from all sides. In the deepest part of the basement, they found a room that had been sealed off with a heavy wooden door. Strange symbols were carved into the wood, and a cold, malevolent energy seemed to radiate from within. Elena shuddered, her psychic abilities picking up on the dark presence that lingered behind the door. "This is it," Maria said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is where the real evil lies." With a sense of foreboding, they pried the door open and stepped inside. The room was small and bare, with a single chair in the center. Chains hung from the walls, and the floor was stained with dark, dried blood. It was clear that unspeakable acts had taken place here. As they began to investigate the room, the temperature dropped even further, and a deep, guttural growl echoed through the basement. The sound sent chills down their spines, and they knew they were not alone. Elena gasped, her eyes wide with terror. "It's here," she said, her voice trembling. "The demon that haunts this place. It's watching us." Before they could react, the door slammed shut behind them, plunging the room into darkness. The growl grew louder, and the air was filled with a sense of malevolent glee. The demon was toying with them, enjoying their fear. Sam fumbled with the equipment, trying to get the lights back on. Maria held up her flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness, but it flickered and died, leaving them in complete blackness. They heard the sound of chains rattling, and a cold wind swept through the room, carrying with it the stench of death and decay. Maria felt a presence behind her, and she turned to see two glowing red eyes staring at her from the shadows. The demon's form was indistinct, a shifting mass of darkness that seemed to suck the light from the room. With a roar, the demon lunged at them. Maria felt a searing pain as its claws raked across her arm. She stumbled back, trying to escape, but the demon was relentless. It seemed to be everywhere at once, its laughter echoing through the room. Tom, ever the skeptic, tried to rationalize what was happening. "It's just a trick of the light," he said, his voice shaky. "There has to be a logical explanation." But deep down, he knew there was no explaining the terror they were facing. The demon was real, and it was intent on destroying them. Elena, her psychic abilities heightened by the danger, began to chant an ancient banishment spell. Her voice was steady, filled with a quiet strength. The demon recoiled, its form flickering and wavering as the words took effect. But the banishment spell was not enough. The demon's power was too great, and it surged forward, knocking Elena to the ground. Sam and Tom rushed to her side, trying to protect her, but the demon was relentless. Maria, desperate to save her friends, remembered the journals she had found in the asylum's attic. They detailed rituals and spells meant to banish dark entities. With a surge of determination, she began to recite one of the spells, her voice strong and unwavering. The demon howled in rage, its form twisting and contorting as the spell took hold. The room was filled with a blinding light, and the air crackled with energy. Maria continued to chant, her voice growing louder and more confident. Just as it seemed they might succeed, the light faded, and the room fell silent. The demon was gone, but so were the chains and the bloodstains. The room looked untouched, as if they had imagined the entire encounter. But alive. They made their way back to the main office, their minds reeling from the night's events. "We need to leave," Sam said, his voice filled with urgency. "This place is too dangerous." Maria nodded, knowing he was right. They packed up their equipment and left the asylum, vowing never to return. But as they drove away, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of the asylum's dark secrets. The demon might have been banished, but its presence still lingered, a shadow over the building and the town. In the days that followed, Maria couldn't escape the memories of that night. The demon's laughter haunted her dreams, and she felt a constant sense of being watched. She knew that the asylum's dark energy had marked her, and she feared that the demon would return. Determined to find answers, Maria delved deeper into the asylum's history. She discovered that the building had been a site of occult rituals, where demons were summoned and bound to the physical world. The asylum's patients had been used as sacrifices, their souls offered up to dark entities in exchange for power and knowledge. The more she learned, the more she realized that the asylum was a gateway, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. The demon they had encountered was just one of many that lurked in the shadows, waiting for a chance to cross over. Maria knew she couldn't fight the darkness alone. She reached out to other paranormal investigators, forming a network of experts in the supernatural. Together, they began to unravel the mysteries of the Lafitte Asylum, piecing together the fragments of its dark past. They performed rituals to strengthen the barriers between worlds, using ancient spells and protective talismans. They cleansed the asylum's grounds, hoping to dispel the malevolent energy that lingered there. But despite their efforts, the demon's influence remained. Strange occurrences continued to plague the town, and the asylum's dark history cast a long shadow over New Orleans. Maria knew that the battle was far from over, but she refused to give up. One night, as she sat in her apartment, Maria heard a familiar growl. The temperature dropped, and the shadows in the room seemed to come alive. She felt the demon's presence, a cold, malevolent force that sent chills down her spine. She stood up, her heart pounding with fear and determination. She knew that the demon had returned, but this time she was ready. She had faced the darkness before, and she would face it again. With a steady hand, Maria reached for her protective talismans and began to chant a banishment spell. The demon roared in anger, its form flickering in the darkness. But Maria's voice was strong, filled with the power of ancient magic. The room was filled with a blinding light, and the demon's howls echoed through the air. Maria continued to chant, her voice rising above the chaos. The light grew brighter, and the demon's form began to waver. Just as it seemed they might succeed, the light faded, and the room fell silent. The demon was gone, but Maria knew it was not defeated. It was only a matter of time before it returned, stronger and more determined than ever. Maria sat down, her body trembling with exhaustion. She knew that the battle was far from over, but she was ready to face it. She had the support of her friends and the power of ancient magic on her side. Together, they would continue to fight the darkness, no matter the cost. In the quiet of the night, Maria listened to the sounds of the city, the distant music, and the whispers of the wind. She knew that the demon was still out there, waiting for its chance to strike. But she also knew that she was not alone. She had the strength and the courage to face the darkness. She would never give up. The Lafitte Asylum remained a place of mystery and danger, its dark secrets hidden beneath layers of history and decay. But Maria and her team were determined to uncover the truth, to banish the demons that haunted its halls, and to bring light to the shadows. And so, their story continued, an ongoing battle between light and dark, hope and despair. The demon's influence was never fully banished, but Maria had found a way to coexist with it. In the quiet moments, she still heard the whispers, but they no longer held the power to control her. In the end, Maria's journey was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring hope that even in the darkest of times, there is a chance for redemption and renewal. And as she continued to live her life, she remained vigilant, always aware that the battle was never truly over, but always believing that she could find a way to keep the darkness at bay.